name's William Thidemann. I've been tattooing for 20 years this year. I own a shop called Kaze Gallery and Tattoo Studio in Denver, Colorado. Oh man, as far as like favorite style of doing stuff, lately it's stuff that's heading toward the kind of stuff I'm painting, which is pulling from traditional American iconography. As far as layout and stuff, it's definitely influenced by the way Japanese tattoos are laid out, but it's sort of bringing back in American iconography into it. When I'm doing larger scale pieces, but smaller pieces, they tend to be assemblages of, of Western sort of images. I don't know, it's hard to explain the style I really like. I mean, as far as styles that I care about, traditional stuff, of course, as far as collecting stuff, and ukiyo-e prints and Japanese art, of course, are fundamental in my interests, but not necessarily, I'm not a traditional Japanese tattooer by any stretch. Most of the clients I get, they come in with a vague idea of something, and they're so open in Colorado especially. They might come in and say, hey man, I want a skull, and something very basic, and I want you to embellish it, and it just becomes a piece, it becomes almost like a living piece that just, goes on and creates itself, like it dictates its own things as you go. And, well, as far as tattooers go, I would have to say probably, I forget the magazine, but right before I started tattooing, or right as I started tattooing, I forget what came out, there was a feature on Primal Urge, and of course Marcus Pacheco, Timothy Hoyer, that crew. Certainly inspired me. Those two guys in particular, of course, as they did for everyone in my generation that started tattooing, were major influences. Aaron Kane, but then also I got a chance to be around this guy, Frank Mills, who owned a lot of Sailor Jerry's original, like the book they put out of Flash. Oh, okay, yeah. So when I got to see that stuff, 1 or 2 years into tattooing and be right there looking at it, it really got me interested, and I started collecting a lot of those originals as well. Traditionally, obviously, the basics, probably Bob Wicks is my favorite. He's absolutely my #1 favorite, period. And then all the other ones that every other guy would say in a row, Sailor Jerry down to Jensen or whatever. But as far as tattooers currently that are working, probably the guy gave me the biggest influence personally initially and inspired me to think about tattooing in a different way was certainly Timothy. He moved to Richmond, Virginia, where I was living at the time. And as a 2-year-long tattooer, to have somebody who you have been looking up to for that long move to your town, it was a pretty great thing to have happen, at least inspiring people. Maybe not trying to do that style particularly, but just the nature of the work and the scale and all that sort of stuff, the richness was instrumental. I think Regino Gonzalez actually is one of those guys. Like, I think he gets a lot of attention, but I think some of the stuff he's doing is so far and above a lot of other people doing the same relative stuff.
Where's he at?
I believe he's in Visible, New York right now. Okay. He works for Troy Denning, if I'm correct. And I think, God, I mean, normally I could probably say like 15 people that I think should get more attention. Matt Rousseau in Durango, Colorado. He does stuff that's laid out body-wise as if it was like Philip Blue layout or a traditional Japanese piece, but fully supplanted with Western images. So you might see like a crane, instead of like a crane, you might see some bird that's native to Colorado. Instead of seeing bamboo, you would see images. And I think his work and the scope of it, people would know him better if he didn't live in such an isolated place.
What shop does he work at?
He owns Your Flesh.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's in Durango?
Durango, Colorado, yes. The moody, cranky side would be quit. The more pragmatic, positive side would be draw, draw, draw. There's when I first started, I read this quote from Philip Blue, and he said, beyond all the fame and all the wanting to be popular shit, there's no way around it. Hard work and constant drawing is the only way. You're not going to get anywhere if your work's not, right, happening that way. And you can promote all day long, you can get on Instagram, you can do all that shit, but if you go to bed at night knowing where you're at with stuff. And I would rather not go to bed thinking I'm so wonderful, but thinking that at least I'm making an effort to work that hard that maybe someday I got that. And I'm hitting 20 years this year, and I feel like there's so much more stuff to know how to do, and the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Right.
So yeah, so draw, 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 draw. Well, it seems like there's a lot of really pretty work that's happening, a lot of great scale work. I think like Australia right now is popping off in a way that most people don't understand, and there's a handful of artists there that are just so amazing. I think they're giving people in the rest of the world a run, and I don't think the rest of the world sees it coming. That's not to diminish what happens in the United States. You know, I mean, this is still probably one of the #1 spots, I think, for tattooing. Right. And maybe it's just that I'm biased.
I agree.
Well, I mean, the major, I think, thing with educating the public to me would be to keep the people, like the only reason there's bad tattooers in business is because people spend money with bad tattooers. At this point, when there's so many good guys, and there's so many, like at least in each town there's a few, you know, good tattooers, at the very, very least. And in some towns there's a lot of good tattooers. And so if you have 80 shops and then you got 5 shops that are really good, or maybe like, you know, maybe it's like 10 or 20%. And you know, there's a Sailor Jerry quote that goes, everybody gets a tattoo they deserve. And if you're not putting your work into it and you get screwed by a tattoo, I don't personally feel very bad for you. I think it's a learning process, and they'll make your next tattoo, you'll appreciate it much more. So the major benefit with educating the public would be, hopefully they'll stop supporting artists that don't put the due diligence in and don't have the respect for what they're doing enough to treat it like how it should be treated. Beyond that, I don't think the public should be educated about, I think people talk too much about the technical side of stuff too openly, and I think it should also be respected as a craft in that regard too. And I think that's you know, sometimes people run their mouth a little too much because they want to have an audience, or they want some sort of adulation, and I think that's a bad part of an ego that artists often have. I think that should be kept till people have paid their time and come in and learn appropriately. But as far as being consumers, seeing the nature of the work and what's possible, that part they should definitely be educated on. I've owned a shop now with my partner Sandy Calistro for 3 years, and the biggest part of giving back to me with this, at least on a very minor level, was making sure that people that work for us didn't go through some of the shit that we went through. I'm not saying that their life should be easy, but they shouldn't feel unappreciated in the shop. Like, I like going to work and seeing somebody who's renting from me, saying like, I love being here, and treating your artist right and evening it out. Because before, you know, you felt like you had a pimp or something. You know, like, and I remember the first, you were using you. And I remember the first shop I worked at, the reason why I got like, well, I quit / got asked to leave at the same time in the first shop. And it's because I bought my own machines and power supplies.
And didn't buy them through him, and
he didn't want me to own it, period.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I wanted to practice on friends for free because I knew I didn't know what I was doing. You know,
right.
But he had hired me on. He didn't really care. He's passed away now, so I don't want to speak ill of the dead.
Right.
But his perspective was much different. It was much more like a pimp. And nowadays, like when I run my shop, like everybody's an independent contractor. Even our assistant's an independent contractor, and she dictates her hours and she helps manage stuff. And it's all about kind of giving the artists more time to actually work and not being a ball buster on their ass all the time. And I can be cranky about people who don't follow the right form, but I also don't hire those people. Right. So therefore, it's a peaceful environment. And giving back to tattooing is not regressing and staying in the same spot. It doesn't mean you have to do wacky new school shit, some of which I don't even really like, to be honest. But if you're going to do traditional, there's some aspect of traditional that you can tweak or push or move a pattern in or make it new. And if you're doing painterly stuff, then, you know, bring in some more richness and depth. Paying back is simply trying to keep advancing it and not letting it become something that just is another corporate-y kind of business, like banal, heartless thing, you know, because you can sell certain images all day long, and you can make them with heart, or you can make them where they really are just, it's a sticker with an image, and it's selling a basic thing. And I'm not going to specify any styles or types necessarily, but I think people know it. I think you would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So just to be true and like be a bit more unique and not so homogeneous, you know?
Yeah.
That gets to be too much.
That's